So welcome to our review video of the Kennet and Avon, part of our review series. We're trying to do one for every one of the waterways we come off of. Not exactly as we come off of it. This one's about 6 months behind, but we're trying to catch up.
So far we've done the Wey and Godalming navigations, we've done the Basingstoke Canal, and we've done the River Thames between Reading and Teddington.
Which puts us pretty much at the very beginning of the Kennet and Avon. So if you haven't seen the review videos before, or you haven't seen one recently because it's been a while, we've basically broken the idea up into an acronym, REVIEW. So we're going to start with R, which is Route Regulations, Licensing and Personnel.
So the route basically runs from Reading, where the Kennet and Avon, or the Kennet, meets the River Thames, and it goes all the way to Bristol. And it's essentially the two waterways, the Kennet and the Avon.
So that basically makes it pretty much the longest navigable waterway in the south of England.
It's 150 kilometres long.
And a heck of a lot of locks. So technically it is two rivers and one canal section. There were also two other canals that did connect up to the Kennet and Avon, the Wilton Berkshire and the Somerset Coal Canal, but both of those have been long, sort of disconnected.
Although they are looking at restoring the
Wilton Barks. Although it won't be through its original route, ever so slightly because of a series of buildings in the way.
The Kennet and Avon was actually our first experience of needing a CRT license.
Yeah, while we were finishing up on the Thames, we just phoned up and got a 6-month license in our case, because at that point we had 6 months till the end of the year, so it made sense, so we could maybe think about getting a gold license in January if we wanted to.
We didn't really meet too many Canal and River Trust people along the way. There was thankfully volunteer lock keepers on the Cane Hill flight, and we also had them in Bath.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do work in other areas, we just didn't happen to meet them in other areas.
We did see CRT personnel involved in maintenance, clearing, there was people looking at locks, things like that, but we didn't really directly engage with many people. And there's no manned locks on the entire thing. You've got the Canal and River Trust responsible for the section from Blake's Lock, or just after Blake's Lock, all the way to Hanham Lock, which is quite far down the Avon. And then after Hanham Lock, you're on the waters that are controlled by the Bristol City Council. So there are two licensing authorities, but for the vast majority of it, you really just have to have your CRT license.
And when you get to Hanham Lock, you
phone Neelam Lock, I think it's called, from Hanham Lock, saying you're on the way. Neelam Lock is actually a flood lock, and it will be manned, and they sell you a license based on the length of the boat and the time you're going to be in the harbour.
And that guy was really lovely, wasn't he? He was really helpful.
Really helpful. Like just gave us everything we needed to know, where all the water points were, where all the waste points were.
Yeah, options for where we could moor and stuff. And really.
And which ones were sort of the most aesthetically pleasing. He gave us quite a rundown and everything. Also had a lovely dog. Yeah, and then you head into the Bristol harbour, and you're under the jurisdiction of the harbour authority, basically, and the city council. From there, you could go on to the actual Avon and head out to the Avon mouth in the Severn Estuary. We didn't do that. That's under a different authority again.
Our trip was from Reading to Bristol and then back to Reading again. So E is ease of navigation, locks, bridges, water levels, currents and tunnels.
So there's 106 numbered locks from the beginning of the canal at Reading all the way to the end.
So there's basically one lock every kilometre.
Pretty much, yeah. And
on average.
Two of them have technically been combined together in the Bath Deep Lock, the second to last lock on the Bath flight, just before you head out onto the Avon. The Deep Lock is
daunting.
Yeah,
Deep.
Daunting. Because they've combined two big locks. You've got a 19-foot 5-inch drop in that lock, and I can't speak to what it's like from the outside, because I only went...
You had to go in both times.
I went in both times. Dropping, it's like descending into hell or possibly your grave, and on the way out, it's sort of like trying not to be bashed to death before you go up. Yeah. It's a bit daunting, and if at all possible, go up in two boats, because
that would have been bad.
Like many of the locks on the K&A, it's a bit wiggly.
I guess the other notable lock feature is Cane Hill, which is 16 locks, one after the other. And we had really good days, both the days, the day we went down and the day we went up.
Both descending and ascending were great. The volunteers were there for the descent for most of it. They were there for part of the ascent.
Yeah, but luckily we went up with another boat.
Yeah, which does make life a lot easier. There is quite a bit of traffic. We came up and met with a wide beam coming through, and everybody just had it sort of sorted so that one boat would move to the side and the rest would move through, and it all flows very, very well. But it is very, very, very tight and very, very narrowly spaced locks.
Stunning to look at. Like it really.
Oh yeah, just an amazing place to just visit. But,
Yeah.
you know.
There was 2 turf-sided locks. They were quite interesting.
Yeah, there's the 2 turf-sided locks, and there was the 2 scalloped-sided locks.
Yeah.
So there are some interesting lock features to see.
The other thing to say is there's a few locks really in bad repair, very leaky, heavy gates, tricky paddles. When you're going up, it's leaking out more water than you can fill, so it's really a lot of turbulence in there.
There are quite a few sections where you'll find that the locks are difficult. Not like unbearably difficult or anything, but they're stiff, they're creaky.
Yeah.
There's lots of wear and tear. There is lots of leaks.
Lots of
slippery.
Lots of gate paddles, which are hard.
Gate paddles that are hard to move. Mechanisms that have that are difficult to work with.
And just a lot of locks. I think, like I said, there's like pretty much on average 1 every kilometre. There's the long pound at the top, which is when you get there and you cruise it that day. It's such a relief not to have to do any locks during that stretch.
It's like a 1 every kilometre on average. And then there's this big section where they're spread out, which means that there's a couple of sections where they're really close together.
Another thing the Kennet and Avon is kind of well known for is the fact that it's got so many swing bridges.
Including one where it's actually right in the middle of the lock.
A lot of them are hydraulic, so when you get to one of them you can just press a button, but there's a few more remote ones that are manual where you use your body weight to swing them, and they can be pretty heavy.
The automatic ones, for the most part, make life quite a bit easier in the places in which you are in any way interrupting traffic. The lift bridge at Aldermaston works quite quickly. It's a little bit daunting, but it's all fairly simple. The manual ones, they can be pretty hard.
And there's one kind of interesting feature at
Woolhampton. Yes, Yes, that one was a trick.
You've got a swing bridge and then some strong current and then a lock, all within like 100 metres of each other. You're not supposed to stop between the swing bridge and the lock, which means you have to send someone ahead to set the lock and then come back and do the swing bridge. We were moored there for a little while and we found people doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things.
There can certainly be some communication issues. Somebody will open the swing bridge before the lock is down, and then that leads to traffic problems.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that one as a single-hander.
It's basically a point where the river rejoins the canal right as the canal comes through the lock. So you have this additional problem of a really strong current at times, either pushing you or pushing against you.
Which is why you have to have the lock open before you go through the swing.
There are several aqueducts at various places along, some modern and some not modern. The most impressive by far are John Rennie's stone aqueducts at Dundas and Avencliff.
Yeah, it's well worth stopping and having a walk underneath to see them.
What's nice about both of them really is that they're very different, and they're just very pleasing to look at and quite interesting to see. Other than the hard 90-degree turn to get into both of them, they're beautiful to navigate through. Water levels, if you've seen our most clickbaity video, are definitely an issue on the Kennet and Avon. Water levels at various places can be non-existent.
So we were there between July and October, and there was definitely a lot of talk about issues with water level. I think even at the summit it was closed for a number of days on a number of occasions because of issues with the water levels.
We passed through a section going eastbound, and then also one coming back the other way near the Crofton Flight and Great Bedwin, where we came across a pound that, although the water had gotten to the point where we could pass through it, it had been drained completely the night before, and boats were still high and dry, or at funny angles and everything, and only the center of the canal was passable.
So it seemed like, in our experience, in that time of year, there was a lot of issues with the water levels.
Yeah, obviously, mainly in the places in which you've gone up a lot of locks.
Yeah,
because
when you're at the peak.
Yeah.
There was 3 tunnels on the Kennet and Avon. There's Bruce's Tunnel, which is about 500 metres long, I think. You can see if a boat's coming. If it's clear, you can go, and if there's a boat coming, you just have to hover around and wait. And both times we did it, both ways, there seemed to be a boat just about to go in each time, and we ended up waiting both times. And then there's 2 very short tunnels in Bath, and they were so short, I was like, are Are these bridges or are they tunnels?
The other thing to be aware of on the Kennet and Avon is that there are a lot of hire boat companies. Most of them are very good.
I mean, and the Kennet and Avon does have a reputation for being busy, but it just means that in certain places there can be a lot of boats. And, you know, if it's Friday or Saturday or Sunday, whichever the changeover day is, there can be an awful lot of traffic.
And some of that traffic may not be
Experienced. So V is for views and scenery. And I guess because the canal is so long, it's quite varied. You've got the cities of Bath and Bristol and Reading, and then you've got smaller towns like Hungerford, Devizes, Newbury. Yeah, then there's lots of little villages that you go through, like Pusey and Bedwin. And
then you get the whole section along the Avon-Cliff area, which is itself very different from everything else.
Completely rural. And yeah, once you get onto the peak, it's very open and rolling countryside.
A lot of differences as you move along, which is quite pleasing and makes it so there isn't sort of any sense of redundancy or anything. There's some tree-lined corridors, there's some lovely rolling hills.
It's quite surreal when you actually join the Kennet and Avon from the Thames and you go through Bakes Lock, because then you go through the centre of Reading and you're actually passing right through the middle of the Oracle shopping centre, and you can't stop there. There's no mooring and there's a traffic light system because you can only go one way at a time. But it is just very strange. There's people carrying their shopping and eating at restaurants as you cruise through.
Yeah, including the little beach that's there. Children playing with dirt and everything, watching you cruise by. It's very strange. And then one of my favourite views was from the top of the Cane Hill Flight. You come up to the top and you've got this row of locks below you, but also there's just this really quite nice view of the area around there and everything. Slightly disturbed by a military helicopter flying over several times. But it was just a really nice view.
So I asked for interesting points, and one thing that we found could be useful was the Facebook group for the Kennet and Avon. I guess there's a real sense of community by all the people that live permanently on the Kennet and Avon and continuously cruise. And there's all sorts of information there. We ended up buying a gangplank through there. We met the guy that we came up the Cane Hill Flight with through there. We learned about the water levels through there. You kind of have to be a bit aware that not everything you read on there is gospel, because just as we were about to head towards the Cane Hill Flight to come up again, we read a post saying that it was going to be shut for a week. It wasn't. But I went into panic. It's a nice community thing, but it's not 100% reliable.
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting points on the KNA. I mean, in terms of sort of historical things, there's Rennie's Aqueducts, there's the Crofton Beam engines,
which unfortunately we didn't get to see in action because we were there on the wrong day.
There's the Cane Hill Flight itself, which is just magnificent. Bath has some amazing sites around it. The Roman Baths, Bath Abbey. There's just some stunning architecture in Bath City itself. Of course, you get down to Bristol and you've got the HMS Great Britain. There's Brunel's Bridge,
the
which
suspension bridge
is stunning.
And just mooring in the harbour is actually quite a unique experience.
It's just very central and so much of interest around. So I really liked Bristol.
Ease of access to facilities, shops, moorings and fuel.
Shops was pretty easy.
Yeah, like you pass through the cities that we mentioned and lots of towns and lots of villages. It was never an issue.
I mean, there's a couple stretches where you might go a day or two without passing by a convenient large chain shopping.
I guess the Reading end was a little bit harder. The Cunningman and the Tall Mill area to Woolhampton, that whole section, there wasn't too much. You just need to be a little bit organised and prepared to walk a little bit.
And once you get past Woolhampton,
there's so many little towns.
There's plenty of shopping available. So in terms of boating shopping, like Chandlery's and everything,
there wasn't that much.
There wasn't that much.
There was Newbury Marina.
There's Aldermaston, which has a very small little shop.
There's two below the flight at Hilpleton. But in terms of fuel, there's two fuel boats. There was Aussie Fuel Boat, who is kind of at the Reading end, and then there's Spencer, who's at the other end.
Yeah, and both of them were very helpful. That worked out really well.
So mooring wasn't so easy on the Kennet and Avon, and I don't think we realised how hard it was until we moved on to other waterways where it's just easy.
We got onto the Oxford and it's like, wait, it can be like this?
There's a couple of reasons that it's hard. There's limited visitor moorings. All the visitor moorings are 48 hours or less. There's no 1 week or 2 week visitor moorings that we found, and the visitor moorings are incredibly popular. It's really busy with hire boats.
On the return journey, things were beginning to convert over to winter moorings, and pretty much the entirety of the KNA, all of its visitor moorings seem to go to winter moorings during the winter.
So if you can't get on a visitor mooring, you think, oh, that's fine, just go on a towpath mooring. Well, all of the towpath moorings seemed to be incredibly difficult. And again, they were busy, but they were also very shallow. So you would definitely need your gangplank to get ashore. And because they were so shallow, you'd be sitting on the silt. And because it's so busy, every time a boat went past, you'd be dragged along the silt. So it wasn't much fun, really.
No, mooring was definitely the biggest strain and why we tended to plan ahead to arrive earlier in the day.
We'd only do half-day cruises so that we could get a mooring. It was never a real problem, like we always ended up with somewhere, but there was places where, like all Cannings, I remember thinking we'd moor there. Well, there wasn't any, so we had to go through to the next place.
And there were places where we ended up having to have somebody moor beside us because we'd arrived in time to find mooring, but they didn't.
But they hadn't, yeah.
And then there's kind of this other place once you get onto the Avon where it all sort of shifts, and now there's just huge sections where you wouldn't want to moor unless you were suicidal.
So yeah, between Bath and Bristol, we only found one set of moorings.
In Salford.
Yeah, and if you couldn't get on there, then you'd potentially have to push all the way to Bristol. There was a few at Keynsham Lock, but it was just chock-a-block.
We did the trip in 2 days, stopping in Salford, and that worked out for us. Mooring can be a bit of a strain on the KNA. W, water and waste. Okay, water wasn't really an issue. Water was available pretty much every time you'd get to a 48-hour mooring. Waste is frequent, but not really frequent enough. We ended up having garbage, sort of bagged up for a while, especially recycling.
There was a couple of recycling points. Like I remember at Tile Mill there was recycling.
Yeah, and that was nice. And there was a few of them along the way. And arguably there were more of them than we've seen in a lot of waterways. It just wasn't the most readily available thing.
In Newbury, there's no facilities.
Yeah.
And then all the local bins say do not put boaters' rubbish here, and that's obviously fine because it's the council that are paying for those litter bins, but it's really hard. You want to moor there for a couple of days or a week and you've got nowhere to put your rubbish.
And Newbury is also where there wasn't a water point except for if you push back to the marina, which had recently decided to start charging for water and everything.
So yeah, we had to pay £5.
Just for water. Newbury was the place where I ended up walking bottles of wee over to the public toilets to put in the coin in the morning and just rhythmically pour urine down the toilet whenever everybody else was in the middle of their flush cycles. There could definitely be more LSANs along that way. So basically the one thing I think I felt I had the most issue with was the LSANs more than anything else. We ended up buying a second bottle for our liquid waste specifically because we were having this problem. We kept running into places where we'd get to the point of being overfilled.
So overall, I absolutely loved the Kennet and Avon. People do say, once you've done it once, you don't go back, and I can kind of understand that.
I loved a lot of it. There were parts of it that felt like a slog. They just felt like they were hard, mainly because of the locks, also because I think of just bad luck with the weather in places.
I think the Pewsley and Crofton section is absolutely stunning. I think that's my favourite part of it. If you can moor at Crofton Beam Engines and go for a walk up to the windmill, it's just glorious up there.
It was a really nice area. And once you go up the Crofton Flight and you've got that long pound, there's quite a lot of really nice stuff there. Devizes was great.
Yeah.
Really liked
Bradford
Devizes.
on Avon, it's got quite a bad reputation for trouble, but by the canal, but the town itself is gorgeous. And there's the Tithe Barn to look at. Yeah, there's stuff to do all the way along. And there is a real liveaboard community down there, and everyone was really friendly. And
there were some very interesting characters. We met a lot of people who were long-term liveaboards. The general feeling I had was you had this very long stretch from Reading, really, that was nice. It was pleasant enough. But to get to the point where I started feeling like I was enjoying it took quite a while. Now, partially that was our solar panel installation. I didn't really feel like I was relaxing until we got to Crofton.
So would you do it again?
I'd do it again.
I would. But
I'd do it again by going down the Severn. Right? I'd do it again by swinging down the Avonmouth, coming up to that thing, knocking on the great big lock and being like, let us in! I really liked Bristol. I thought Bath was beautiful. Bathampton was nice. Didn't like having a piece of metal in my leg. Don't need to return to Aldermaston due to the whole memory of my face hitting a piece of solid rock. I guess I liked the section that was further away from the Thames than I liked the section that was up to the Thames.
So you like the West End rather than the East End?
Yeah.
So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. Links below to the other ones that we've done. And next one should be the Thames from Reading to Oxford. Might not be. We might do a different one. Michael, that isn't even recording.
Well, good. We've saved ourselves some trouble.
Oh God, I noticed.
So welcome to our review.
Hang on a second. George.
Is licking his paw.
George.
George?
Do you want to come and sit next to Mummy and Daddy? He's so cute, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Come and sit here. Oh, there's that manoeuvre again.
There it is. The walk across. Okay, so welcome to our review of the Kennet Naven. It's been...
George, can you go to sleep? Just start snoring.
We've broken it up into REVIEW.
This is not going to work.
This could be a problem.
Wilson.
The Wilson Barks, although it won't be through its original.
Called Barks.
The Wilson Barks.
And then there's that
Mile.
1 every kilometre.
1 every kilometre?
Yeah.
Or 1 every mile? I thought it was 106 miles.
No, it's 115 kilometres.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah.
At
Which one are you talking about?
where that pub is.
There's quite a few peaks, basically, on this very long section.
Well, no, there's one peak. Basically, you go up and then you come down.
Isn't there 2?
No.
There's Crofton Flight, and then... Oh, yeah, right. Yep, she's right. Never mind.
Yes.
So there's like one really big peak with sort of sub-peaks.
There's no sub-peak. You go up
Yeah,
and then you come down.
You go up, and then you go up higher, and then you go down, and then you go down.
Yeah, but you don't go up and down and up and down.
Yeah, you don't go up and down and up and down and up and down. No, okay, fair enough.
George, there's 2 tunnels that we went through, I think.
Wait, sorry, I've lost where we are. During the mud. Watch you heading up, flowing, descending. Where's the tunnels portion?
In my head.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Back. Yes. Okay, George. Your genitals are beautiful, I know. But just trying to stop cleaning them. Yeah.